Good evening. We are all okay, Mr. Spearman? Thank you. Good evening and welcome to this evening's City of Burnside Council meeting of the 14th of February 2023, opening at 7 p.m. Welcome to everyone here and to those who are watching from home. Before we begin, could you please make sure you turn off your mobile phone or place it on silent now so that the meeting is not disturbed, and of course mask wearing is optional. Please stand and remain silent during the acknowledgements. We acknowledge that the land we meet on today is the traditional land of the Kaurna people and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the original custodians of the Adelaide region and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still important to the Kaurna people today. We pay respect to the cultural authority of Aboriginal people visiting and attending from other areas of South Australia and Australia. On behalf of the City of Burnside, I gratefully acknowledge and pay respect to all those who have sacrificed their lives for this country and its people. We also consider in our thoughts all those who today are being affected by war across the globe, and especially those in Ukraine. Finally, we seek guidance in our debate as we make decisions that will impact on the lives of all who reside, study, work in or visit the City of Burnside. Grant us wisdom as we serve our community. Please be seated. Just a reminder about using your microphone to register your intent to debate and wait until I've asked you to speak. Please turn off your microphone as soon as you finish speaking, and please be respectful and patient while listening to each speaker and not interrupt or interject during the debate. Each person has 3 minutes with a warning bell at 2. We are about to embark on making decisions that will impact on all the residents and ratepayers of Burnside, and I remind you again that although you were elected by a ward, you represent the interests of everyone in the city, irrespective of age, ability, political boundary or cultural interest. Now to the agenda. First of all, there are no absences, and I need to know if there's anyone who wishes to declare an interest. There not being anyone, we'll move on to the next item, which is confirmation of minutes. I seek a mover. Councillor Henschke, you're moving that, and seconded by Councillor Dawes. Is there any debate? Right, then I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. My mic on. There is no adjourned business. We do have 2 public representations tonight. The first one is public question time. We have 1 question received from Rochelle Martin. The form was completed online. So, Rochelle, if you'd like to come forward to the microphone and ask your question. Thank you.
The recent motion regarding the pump track locations, which was approved by a majority of council at the last council meeting, stipulated removal of a location if substantial issues arose. What substantial issues arose that allowed all 8 locations to be removed? As the residents who support this facility deserve an answer, and better than the one that was on the Burnside website earlier today.
That question is for the CEO.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Rochelle, for the question. So I've just prepared a bit of a response. I'll just read it out. Following the council meeting in question, I made a public commitment to find locations that had no objections, and this proved to be an impossible task. The decision to remove the locations was made due to numerous objections from the community members and the council members speaking on behalf of their residents. Now, as a result of that, I made a decision to hold a workshop with the council members before the end of the month, if possible. So I'm looking to schedule to get together before the end of February to determine the future of the pump track. The best outcome is for the council to resolve once and for all multiple locations to cycle the pump track around the city. The worst outcome is if council cannot agree and the pump track is disposed of. For the record, my guidance to council will be that they listen to the whole community and understand that not everyone will be in favour, and continue to determine a number of locations so that the younger generation may enjoy the facility. However, I'm going to be clear that if that can't be agreed upon, I will be recommending that it be disposed of. I'm an optimist and I'm hopeful for a positive outcome.
Thank you for coming in. Thank you for coming in and asking your question. It's been a while since we had a public question time question. We have no presentations. We do have one deputation tonight that I notified you of earlier today, and that is from Mr. Giovanni Tiramaku, who, if he would mind coming forward and just introduce your name and suburb, and then tell us why you're here.
Thank you. My name is Giovanni Tiramaco and I'm from Glen Osmond. And I'm here to speak to an application to purchase a tract of land that's adjacent to my property, so that we can extend our home in the lovely area of Glen Osmond that we became residents of Burnside 3 years ago. We've done extensive consultation with council staff and with consultants regarding how we can do it in a way that minimises the impact to any native vegetation nearby. And I'm not sure if you get to see the plan, but kind of most of the land is already looks like it's my property anyway. It's been paved by the previous owner. It kind of already is in place. We're just looking for another couple of metres. It won't impact. There's zero impact to any other use, any other users. There's no impact to roadways. There's no impact to the use of any of the walking trails or the amenities. There's no view that isn't already disturbed by our house. So yeah, I'm just here, I guess, to answer any questions and to hope that there's an opportunity to move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Tiramaco. I want to know if there's anyone who wishes to ask a question. I haven't got anyone on my screen yet. Councillor Jones.
Thank you for coming. Now, you've got a garage already, so why do you want to build another one?
This driveway is super steep, and it's pretty scary to get down there. In fact, I can't get one of my vehicles in because of the way the angle of the driveway is. I just can't get under the roller door. It's not high, and my wife's frankly too scared to go down there. We typically park up on the street, and we're taking a street park, so we're trying to get our vehicles off the street. So we would like a little bit straighter path to be able to park our vehicles. Yeah.
Councillor Wilkins, you had your name on, but you've taken it off. Okay. Did you want to ask a question or not? Okay. Councillor Davey, your light hasn't come on here.
So it's working now. It's working now. Okay. Thank you for coming along tonight. I understand you have a development application in formally for a boundary realignment already in train.
That's correct. I was advised that's the process that I needed to undertake. I was told do both. You submit the plan so we know what you want to do, and we'll also do the thing about giving you the land, and so we need to know what you're planning on doing. And I think we're not trying to subdivide the land so we can get another house on it. If you see it, it's just not it can't be done that way. It's really so that we can increase our enjoyment of the home, and we just followed the advice. I spoke to a staff member 2.5 years ago who doesn't work here anymore. James Brennan picked up the case. He's been really great to work with. I'm just trying to follow the process. So I'm not trying to get ahead of myself at all, or be presumptuous. But I guess it helps you see this is the end goal. I guess I'm hoping it makes it a bit easier for you to maybe picture.
Thank you. Can I ask another question?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. And what about demolition of the house and rebuilding it?
No,
is that on the cards?
None. No, it's just to effectively bolt onto the side. Yeah.
And then my third question is about that beautiful big sugar gum.
Yes.
Because I've been up to have a look.
It's a beautiful tree.
And the health of that, and how that would be with excavations and a boundary realignment.
Yes.
How the health of that would be maintained.
Yes, so we've done...
Because it's a major part, as I saw it, of that
It is.
reserve and the environment and
It is,
ecology
definitely.
of that area.
So the arborist reports, and there've been multiple, has spoken to that. The tree was planted you've seen it, it's quite towards my letterbox. It's about 13 or 14 metres away from any construction work. The nature of the existing driveway retaining wall, and I'm paraphrasing the arborist, suggests that the root system has found its strength away from the area that we plan on building on anyway, and there's very little risk, and we have very clear directives and instructions on how to maintain the health of it and protect it during construction. We love the tree. We hope to light it up, make a feature for when you drive up the street. Frankly, that's in our part of our plan to make it a highlight. Yeah, there's no lights on the street either, so I think it'd be nice it'd be a real statement.
Thank you very much. Don't see any further questions on here, so thank you very much for coming in and explaining your situation, particularly about the tree.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I look forward to seeing some Christmas decorations hanging in it.
Yes. Thank you.
Come Christmas next year. Now, I'll go through the reports and seek anyone who wishes to withdraw them. And I believe there's also a motion coming up to just slightly rearrange things as we have usually done when there's been a deputation. So I'll first of all go through the reports. Tramanaway or Dana? Is there anyone who wishes to withdraw that for debate, please? Now, I'm not seeing anything on my microphone, but I'd had that bit of problem before, so there's nothing here. I'm assuming nobody is withdrawing it, so therefore we can vote on this right now. All those in... I need a mover first. Someone to move. Now it's lighting up. Right. Councillor Cornish, you're moving.
Happy to move.
Seconded by Councillor Zing. So unless anyone wishes to speak, I'll put it. Those in favour, against, carried. So that one is 11.1. 11.2, I know that there's some debate on this one. Who wishes to withdraw it? Councillor Cornish.
Thanks.
Tusmore Park Fitness Equipment. Anyone wish to withdraw that? Then I will seek a mover.
Yeah.
Councillor Henschke, you wish to withdraw it. Portion of Allendale Avenue. Anyone wish to withdraw it? If there's no one wishing, then Councillor Jones. They're coming in slow tonight. 11.5, submission to parliamentary inquiry.
Can I just clarify that? So that's Carter Jones has withdrawn that?
Yes. Submission to parliamentary inquiry on the urban forest. Councillor Davey. Supplementary election. We do need to do this tonight. Then I need a motion anyway. Thank you, Councillor Wilkins. No, nothing came up. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Councillor Cornish, I thought you might have left it up from the last one by mistake. Okay, so Councillor Wilkins. Next one is Councillor Dawes wishes to nominate someone for a council appointment to Era Water. And the Mayor's activity report. Someone like to move? Councillor Henschke, you have a question or are you happy to move it? You're moving, seconded by Councillor Cornish. All those in favour, against, carried. And I just note the letter that was attached, which I actually talked about at the last council meeting, but I've got yet another formal letter from the City of Mitcham thanking Burnside Council for their efforts in supporting them. Okay, so now Councillor Hubel.
Can I move? We move directly to 11.4 because the deputy for that item is in attendance.
Do I get a seconder or an indication? Thank you, Councillor Wilkins. You happy for us to do that? We've sort of set a precedent in the past, but this is a new council. We don't have to follow the same precedent. All right. All those in favour of us moving, or just rearranging the agenda? All right. Thank you very much. We will deal now then with 11.4, and I have Councillor Jones moving that. Sorry, it's page 55.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move the officer's recommendation, please. Colleagues, as you know, I am Mr. Anti-land sale, but even I struggle to oppose this sale because the land is, to all intents and purposes, already part of Mr. Tiramako's garden, and no amenity will be lost. And having seen the confidential valuation, I'm reasonably happy with it, that it would be a valuable addition to our land purchase fund, certainly of considerably more value than this patch of land, which nobody in the community could ever use to walk along, because the land's so steep and you would actually think it was part of the Tiramako's garden anyway. The rationale for buying the land seems sensible. It's not as part of that block would, well, one, you couldn't subdivide because it's not big enough, but also when you look at the topography, it would be impossible. So I'm not worried about subdivision. It's increasing the amenity of a resident. It costs this council, there's no loss in community amenity from selling this land, and there's a potential gain because we will get some money. We could buy some more useful land, because I have to say, of all the land sales I've seen, this probably rivals the one that was in Burnside ward last time on off Waterfall Gully Road, where the land was there. It was no use to us. So, sorry? Yes, correct, Councillor Wilkins. So that's about it. I mean, we've got the tree. The council's onto the tree. So we've spent, what, 3 years talking about this? I'm pretty certain that the tree is going to be well protected. Mr. Tiramako knows of council's concerns about the trees and is committed to doing everything he can to not cause damage to the tree. I mean, to be honest, the tree's already surrounded on, you'd say, 2.5 to 3 sides by asphalt and concrete and pavers, so this is not going to make a huge difference, and the tree's managed to survive so far, and I'm sure it will continue to thrive for many years to come, and I seek your support.
Thank you. Councillor Hubel.
I'd like to second and reserve my right. Thank you, Your Worship.
I don't have anyone on the screen, so you might need to speak. No, we suddenly have Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to agree with Councillor Harvey. Harvey Jones, I've been an advocate for not selling council land too, but this one, now I've become older and wiser, I can see sometimes we should. This is one such case. If you go up there and look at it, the photo does not do it justice on how steep it is. Are you going to keep mountain goats there? Because, gee whiz, it's steep. And there's no safety issues, no drainage issues, no future road, no tree issues, no encroachments, no traffic. Just let's sell it and put the money into the used fund. Thank you.
Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Mayor. No, I'm not in favour of this sale. I think for the amount that we've been quoted, I think it's we're virtually giving the land away. And I understand and sympathise with the arguments that have been put up to us, but I am worried about that beautiful, significant sugar gum and its health. And I think any further development adjacent to it, and it sounds like there needs to be a lot, will be detrimental to the tree and the reserve, which is part of our nature reserve. So while we keep talking about our open space fund, I think we've got all of 116k in it. It never moves. We get these pittances added, which, you know, when you look at the value of the land and the property around there, it is an absolute pittance that we've been quoted. I don't think this is best use of council resources and selling off our land. So I won't be supporting this.
Councillor Hench.
Thank you, Mayor. A question for the administration. What will be the setback distance from the sugar gum significant tree to the edge of the new development? Thank you.
Through Madam Mayor, if I just refer that to Mr Cant.
Through your worship, we don't have that information at hand tonight. That would be subject to the DA process and considered at that stage. We're just talking about a realignment of a boundary. That information would be provided through the development assessment process. I will say though, however, the resident initially requested a larger portion of land which included that tree, and my team worked directly with him to negotiate a favourable outcome to ensure that the tree remained in public ownership. And as part of the DA process, tree damaging activities would not be allowed, and they would have to have an appropriate tree management plan as a part of any approved development process. And as Councillor Jones says, we're very well aware of it, and we'll be keeping an eye on it.
Councillor Hench, can you just turn your microphone off, please?
I've got two questions. Previously, council considered a case at Kooyong Court and actually decided not to sell the land. And I'm just wondering, if we approve the sale, does it give the opportunity of where a sale has been refused before, that they could come back with a, you've set a precedent? That's one question, yes.
Through Madam Mayor, happy to take that one. I'm very comfortable that no precedent will be set on the basis that council determines every application on its merits.
Yep.
So I'd always push back on that argument about precedent.
Okay. And the second question is, in regard to, there was a mention of encroachment by the previous owner, some paving or something. Is this additional? So if there was paving that went on into the council reserve previously, is this now an additional encroachment of council's land?
Madam Mayor, I might refer that to Mr Cant.
Through your worship, slightly larger than their existing paved area. As the resident said through his deputation, they've inherited an existing encroachment. He's looking to resolve that matter with council formally. That's the process he's going through. And at the same time seek a little bit more from the bank just next to that paved area, but it's not substantial.
Thank you.
Councillor Henschke, you wish to speak or ask another question?
Another question, please, Mayor. The sugar gum council on council land, has that received arborist pruning in recent years? Will this mean that we would have to budget for some arborist pruning of this large sugar gum to enable more development next door? Thank you.
Through Madam Mayor, I'll seek Mr Cant's input.
Through your worship, I don't have the specifics of that tree right in front of me. However, the report does suggest that the tree's in good health, and I'll remind council that we have a cyclical programme of assessing all council trees on verges. It's already within our jurisdiction, so it has had recent works. With the nature of those, I'm not sure, but we would continue to manage that according with how we currently manage it.
I don't have anyone else on. Councillor Zing.
Thanks, Mayor. Just a quick question to clarify. Is the property the last one on that street on the right-hand side? There's no other houses following the property, is that correct? Or there's a few more following?
There are no other houses.
Down the other house, yeah, that's correct.
I'm very familiar with that area because of the Will Watkins mines in that gully. Right, no further people here, so I need to go back to you, Councillor Hubel.
Thank you, Worship, and Narmani, greet you all this evening. Yeah, look, I think this is a common sense resolution, especially when you see the proposal. It's a glorified widening of the driveway to increase amenity. The gum is being looked after. There have been significant concessions made to allow for that to be looked after. And look, it's well and truly on everyone's radar. So I can't see that the gum is in danger at all. I don't think the lack of cost is a motivator, whether or not you're happy with the price or not. I don't think we'd be doing this for money, and I don't think whether the price that we get for a piece of land should really come into play overly. I think we're just doing it because it makes sense to do. We're not setting a precedent here, and I think the resident has approached the council in good faith and with due process, and as ward councillor familiar with the area, I'm very happy that this is not impacting on use of the reserve by the public, and it's the sort of, I mean, we have encroachments that pop up all over the city, and we go, well, how come we didn't pick up on it? Well, we didn't notice. But this is someone going, I want to go on there, here I'm going to let you know about it. They're doing the right thing. And there's a lot of residents that don't, and I think, when residents approach us as the city and they are proactive about wanting to do things, and it's absolute negligible impact on the community for this, I think the right thing to do is to follow through. So I commend this course of action to you.
I put the motion. I need to go back to Councillor Jones.
Yeah, look, I think Councillor Hubel has summed up pretty well for me, actually. Common sense decision. Mr Teramaco's done the right thing in coming to council rather than just doing the usual build first, ask permission 30 years later. So I think that's positive. Council members are obviously rightly concerned about the health of the tree. But let's remember, this is not a tree on private land. This tree belongs to council. It will continue to belong to council, and we can be certain that council will continue to monitor its health. And Mr Teramaco himself has said how much he and his family value the tree. So I think we should proceed, and I hope you'll vote in favour.
All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Now we'll move back to number 11.1, Tramina-Uldana. No, we've done that one. I've ticked it. The George Bolton Swimming Centre, 11.2. Councillor.
Thank you, Worship. I have a motion that I've sent through to everyone. If I could have that up on the screen. I have just added number 3 to the motion. That requires that council undertakes a council member workshop on the George Bolton Swim Centre project before the end of May 2023, which allows for consideration of the building design, landscaping and community consultation requirements as well. So it was just something that I think a lot of new members here don't know enough about the project. It'd be good to get them up to speed, and also to understand, I suppose, the requirements that we need for the community. Look, this is a very important project. The pool needs to be heated. The gas heaters are coming to the end of their useful lives. Shifting this from gas to electric is a massive dent in our carbon footprint for this council, 22%. It's almost 350 tonnes of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere every year that we can remove just through this one project. And it's going to get us so closer to becoming carbon neutral by 2030, which is one of this council's key objectives. As I said, I've added that little bit extra so that we can better manage the project going forward, and I hope you support the motion. Thank you.
Councillor Hubel.
Thank you, Worship. Very happy to second this, and thank you, Councillor Cornish, for bringing this up. Yes, I think this is the sort of project that all members should be completely abreast of, and it's a brilliant move forward for the centre. Obviously, the new technology will increase the usability of the centre, but we are talking about there being significant considerations with how it looks, what the scope of development within the swim centre within Hazelwood Park would be, and I think it's really important that we as a chamber are comfortable with all facets of a project like this before moving forward. So I think bringing this to a workshop as well is a really good thing to do. So, and I look forward to that workshop.
Councillor Davey.
Thank you. Thank you for the motion and the inclusion of the part 3. I think it's a very worthwhile addition. But my question relates to just a clarification about community consultation in this really important part, because the locals are very concerned. They don't think it's adequate that the consultation is just associated with the development application. So can you clarify, please, how we will do community consultation in addition to that? Because, as we know, that's not a very good, it's not very complete.
Certainly. Through Madam Mayor, can I refer that to Mr. Cant?
Through your worship, Councillor Davies correct. That was the original intent with respect to the level of consultation through the DA process, but also through the annual budget process as well, where it was a significant project that was listed during the current financial year, and it would be next year as well. However, the current motion, part 3, actually specifically lists community consultation, so it would be our intent to actually spell out at that workshop for council members exactly how we would then inform and consult the community going forward.
Just a subsequent question to that. There are two different groups. There are the user group and the neighbours. And so the community is quite a large community when you consider that, and I'm assuming that those considerations would be taken into consideration during that consultation process. I just wanted to clarify that. As an avid user of the pool as I am, I'm just as interested as those who live nearby, and we do know that during the last process of the redevelopment of the swimming pool, there were some issues and concern from the community, particularly about the noise of some of the equipment. And I know there's been some issues about tree removal. So these things I'm sure that will come up. And thank you, Councillor Cornish, for your alternative motion. Now I've got a list of people. Councillor Davey, you're first.
Thank you, and thank you for that clarification, Mayor, because that was a point I was going to make too, so it's well made. And I absolutely agree with Councillor Cornish. The new electric pool heating project is very worthwhile, very important, especially in our scheme of things for our carbon emissions reduction. However, I think we need to be really careful with this project because there are a number of risks associated with the redesign and the construction of the plant room at that site. These cover the fact that it's located in a state heritage listed reserve, Hazelwood Park, for which we have significant responsibilities, both for its maintenance in terms of its aesthetics and character, and also for the user groups and the high volume user groups, as the Mayor has outlined, who use the park and love it. And our community, both local and the wider community, expect this. I think we as council are dependent on the acumen of the administration to ensure that all the protections necessary are considered and are in place for this construction in this special heritage listed situation. This includes any and all the adjacent trees, including our threatened significant trees, plus the highly valued and utilised adjacent walking track, which runs alongside this plant room, which is known to everyone locally as the goat track, which will be impacted by a changed footprint. There's also the altered air movement of a much larger piece of equipment in the plant room, which will affect the surrounds, and we haven't seen any scientific or reports on that, but hopefully they will be considered and will come to us. The building must also be aesthetically acceptable to complement its heritage surroundings, its natural beauty, as well as the remaining remnant vegetation and its location. And it also has to be, I'm mindful, financially viable. So while we councillors have not had a briefing or a workshop discussion on this matter for many months or years, this needs to happen before finalisation and before we can finalise the community consultation, and when we consider the tenders and that whole process and how it's received, and before it all goes out to the planning process. So thank you for this motion. I hope you'll support it. I think it's a good outcome for this new plant room and heating. Thank you.
Councillor Hallett.
I've got a question and a comment. Thank you, Your Worship.
Question and comment. Make sure you separate the two, because one is a debate, the other one is a question.
Okay. First question, it relates to the community consultation, and was any consideration given to involving residents or park users or path users or pool users in the design and problem-solving process, so right up front, rather than going out with a decision, a half-made decision that we're just asking for feedback, have we got it right? Like, did we consider something like a charrette process with the community?
Through the Mayor, I know we did give us consideration to most of those parties, but I'll let Mr. Cant expand a little bit on that.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, back in 2020, I believe it was, Council made a commitment to becoming carbon neutral. And as part of that commitment, we presented a report to Council that said if we want to become carbon neutral, these are the things we're going to need to do to get to that point. And one of the key projects within that carbon neutral roadmap was changing this pool heater from gas to electric, because it is the single biggest emitter of carbon emissions that we have across the city of Burnside. So Council committed to making that change. Once that commitment was made, we went and we engaged a professional engineering consultancy who looked at electric heating systems and what would be required and where that needs to be located and the technical requirements of an electric heating system. So they need a particular footprint, they've got to be ventilated a certain way to work properly, they've got to be close to the other filtration equipment. There's a lot of requirements from that front. We've designed something that meets all those technical requirements. The noise was another one I think came up beforehand, so it's got to be enclosed to meet EPA noise level requirements. We looked at a couple of site options back last year, which we presented to Council. The location that's been chosen, which was an extension to the existing plant room building, was chosen by Council. So there were two other locations we looked at the time as well. Both of those would have required removal of trees, significant trees, and they would have taken up a much larger portion of open green space, which at the time was felt that would have a much bigger detrimental impact to the users of both the pool and the local community than the site option that was chosen. We do still have a community consultation process we'll need to go through, but we've got to think about what are the things that the community can have input to in relation to this and get their input on those things. So they are things like the building design, what it looks like, tree plantings, those sorts of things. What we can't necessarily change are the technical requirements that those heaters have to work. So that's, Mr Cant mentioned before, when we look at this workshop with elected members, they're the things we can go through. What are the things that they can have influence over and we can ask them about and have their input to? So we make sure we're checking off all those points and work through that process from there.
And my comment is in regard to the vinyl.
Okay, so now you're moving into debate.
Okay, I just.
Right, because you can't make a comment.
Okay.
Can ask a question, and then you get the answer, and then you can either ask a second question, supplementary question, or you can move into debate the issue. Otherwise, you step back and wait and debate later.
Okay.
Right, just wanted to clarify so that you
Well, I can
didn't
ask.
step forward and start speaking, and then not realise that by making a comment you're actually entering the debate.
Okay. Well, I have another second question.
All right.
And that is, did we consider a green wall instead of the vinyl sheeting and the blades?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, the answer to that is yes. I know we had a conversation about it, but I'll just ask Mr Cant to refresh my memory.
Through the chair, we did look at that option, but the acoustic engineering report said that we couldn't get away with that from a noise perspective. To meet those noise requirements, it needed to be a reasonably solid wall. It's louvered because it needs the airflow through as well, but a green wall wouldn't have met those requirements.
Just to expand on that, that was one of the issues that we debated 3 years ago, or 5 years ago now, when the original redevelopment of the plant room had to take place. And initially, the wall that was put there wasn't noise-proof enough and had to be adapted and changed to what it is currently, which is something similar to what is proposed to make sure that the residents across the other side of the street don't hear the noise of the machinery. All right, just to clarify. Okay. Now, Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question.
Helen, could you turn your microphone off, please?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question, please. And that is, why is there only one tender? Was there other tenders and one was chosen in particular, or is there only just one tender? Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, if I can refer that to Mr Cant.
Through the Mayor, we let an open tender just before caretaker process earlier this year. So that open tender went out to anyone that wanted to respond to it. So it was open for all companies to respond to. We had 2 responses come back in. One of them was completely non-compliant, so it was not for what we'd specified. The other one we felt was pretty close to non-compliant as well. And both were excessively over budget. So when we looked at that, we don't think this is a good result for council, and we've revisited the design. We verified that that was appropriate. We've looked at a mechanism now to break the project into 2 pieces, so hopefully we can get some better competition through the market and get some more people responding to the tender so that we can get a better cost for our community as well.
Thank you. Thank you for that comprehensive answer. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. My red light went on.
What did you do?
I went off and then I tried to turn it on again.
Well, you were the next to speak.
So do you want me to turn off?
No, because there's a great long line after you.
Okay, well, I'll go back to the back of the queue. I'll go. No, it's too hard.
I don't know what happened then.
I'm red.
So he just disappeared. Now we've still got 4 people and Councillor Dawes is gone as well.
And mine's blinking green.
Sorry, now I have Councillor Henschke next.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Question, please, for the administration. Take this mask off. Has the council, can the council contact obliged energy retailers to access the Retailer Energy Productivity Scheme, REPS, which is about getting a co-payment from energy providers through the Essential Services Commission of South Australia.
Through Madam Mayor, I'll refer that to Mr Cant.
Through the Mayor, we did look at that REP scheme and this project doesn't look like it's eligible for that scheme.
Can I have a follow-up question?
Yes, you may.
Can we get, is that written confirmation from an energy retailer? Have we contacted Alinta Energy, Origin Energy in writing? There's 27 of them.
Through Madam Mayor, if my staff have said they've contacted it and they've got a response, I'm happy to abide with the response they've been given.
Right, next person to ask a question or speak is Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a question. On page of the photos, how tall is that proposed louvered wall for the noise mitigation? It looks enormous.
Yes, certainly. Through Madam Mayor, it's taller than we would like, that's for sure. Mr Cant's got the spec there, I believe.
Yeah, it does.
Through the Mayor, I might have to take that on notice because if I quote a number off the top of my head, it's likely to be not quite right. I know the size was designed by the engineers to meet ventilation requirements for the heating units.
Can I just have a follow-up question, please? Does it have to be that tall? Can you ask them that as well? Does it have to be that big?
Through the Mayor, yes, we'd absolutely ask that question. Our intent through the design phase was to make the building as small as possible to restrain the footprint as much as we could. The height of the building, as I said, it was required to maintain that small footprint on site and to meet the ventilation requirements for those pool heaters.
Through the Mayor, I'll just add to that as well. Just as mentioned earlier on, by restricting it to the existing footprint within the fence line means that we don't impact on the goat path, which is very popular behind, and it doesn't impact on the significant tree that's on the other side of the goat path. So by keeping it to the existing site, allows us to maintain the access and the tree.
Now, Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't touch the microphone this time. Colleagues, I can't support this. This is just madness. When this project was first put to us, it actually made some commercial sense, but the costs are spiralling out of control. I mean, it's gone up to, first time it went up to over $1 million, now it's $2.5 million. It's just crazy. We cannot spend $2.5 million to save, it doesn't make commercial sense to save $50,000 or $100,000 a year. That's a payback period of 25 to 50 years. It makes no sense. And environmentally, I don't think it makes sense to spend $2.5 million to take the equivalent of 114 cars off the road. I mean, that's like a medium-length street in Burnside. It's next to nothing. For $2.5 million, you could buy over 1.5 megawatts of solar panels. That would make an enormous carbon saving, far more than this. We've got the Premier is promising us green hydrogen. So sooner or later, gas is not going to be producing carbon dioxide because it's going to be green hydrogen. So I think it's premature to get rid of the gas system for this very expensive alternative. The other thing is, what are the alternatives? I mean, as you know, I come from a colder country than Australia. And back in the UK, we have unheated outdoor pools. And here in Adelaide, where it's frankly pretty warm, we're doing utterly crazy things like heating an outdoor pool to 27 degrees at 6 o'clock in the morning. Well, how about we say we're not going to do that? That will save a lot of greenhouse gas emissions. And we'll say, maybe we shouldn't heat it at all, or maybe we should heat it to a somewhat lower temperature than 27 degrees, which is just, it's crazy. So what we should be looking at is what is the least cost way to curb our carbon emissions, if that's our desire. And I cannot possibly see that this is the way to do it. And people complain about heating the pool less. It's like, we have declared a climate emergency. Well, having declared a climate emergency, how about we take some emergency measures to do something about it? So I hope you will not support this proposal.
Councillor Dawes.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad that the financials have come out, not because I'm supporting what Councillor Jones said, but I want councillors to be aware of it because we haven't really gone into the finances, and I have annoyed Michelle Kennedy over the last 2 days, so I do apologise, Michelle, but she's given me some pretty good data that we should pay attention to. The first thing I want to say is that the environmental credentials of this project I don't think can be underestimated. I do accept that. However, when large amounts of money are involved, our residents expect us to take a closer eye on the amount of money spent. So we've done that with Era Water of recent times, where under a new chairman, I think that at least there's somewhat moving in the right direction. I'm still not quite there yet, but there's a large amount of money involved with Era Water, as we know. The same thing here. Councillor Jones is correct that when you compare apples to apples, from the old budget to the new budget, it's about $700,000 more if you count in the plant room. So that's what I went back to Ms Kennedy on. How is the $700,000 worked out? And it's very hard to determine it. Half it could be involved with inflation. As you know, building expenses now are gone through the roof. The second was the tree protection measures that already Councillor Davies has mentioned. And the third one was that when we did the initial estimate, it was initial. And with this final design, we have got a quantity surveyor in, and he or she has given us a more defined number. I'm happy to have a workshop. I think that Councillor Cornish is right there, because we've got more information here and we need to understand it a little bit better. I know we're not making a decision by always having workshops, but sometimes with a new council, half of us know something and half of us don't, and sometimes we don't know all the information. So it'd be nice to know. I do think the administration has done the best job they can to this stage under the current financial environment, but I think we need to have a look at it because of the amount of money involved.
Councillor Hubel.
Just a question slash clarification. Am I correct in my understanding that the current plant absolutely needs replacing with something? I mean, where time is of the essence, so something needs to be done. Status quo is not an option.
Through Madam Mayor, it's about 2.5 years ago, I think we mentioned to Council that the gas system was coming end of life. So effectively, we are on borrowed time with our current gas system. And if I may just add slightly more to that answer, when we're looking at the finances of this, assume for the sake of the argument the council says, okay, we're not going to invest in this product, but we just want to keep heating the pool as it is, we would still need to invest in a new gas system. I don't know what that would cost, but my best estimate would be low 7 figures. So we need to address the heating system of the pool. We're recommending this achieves the dual purpose of heating the pool and decreasing our carbon emissions. But we do need to take action on that heating because we are on borrowed time.
Councillor Wilk.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. Thank you. When I first read this motion to council, I thought, we're being asked to tick boxes here. You know, this is what we want to do, tick. No, I've missed 4 years on council. I didn't know any background on it. I agree with Councillor Cornish's third point. We need a workshop. Absolutely critical we need a workshop for the actual improvement that this situation obviously needs. I mean, back to heating the pool, why aren't we putting, we've got a building alongside, can we not pipe water through and heat with solar? there's all sorts of options that private people use. Do we not have enough space to heat the water via solar? We should have solar panels on that plant roof anyway, but we need to talk about it rather than just have something presented to us at $1.194 million and get the fine detail. Don't ask me to tick a box if I don't know all the details, and I'm new. There are other people who are new to council, so it is imperative we have a workshop before we actually go out to community consultation with some form of improvement to the pool, which is everybody's asset in the city of Burnside. I've been to Burnside Primary School swimming carnivals there. St Joe's at Clare, all the Catholic schools have their swimming carnivals there. It is a great community asset, and it is actually a historic one. Australian Garden History would be well in there with you, supporting the retention of the park as it is since time immemorial. So, thank you, Councillor Cornish. You have actually added one point that makes a lot of difference. Thank you.
Councillor Zing.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question. If we were to not proceed with this and stay with the gas option...
Oh, sorry.
And then on page 19.7, if we weren't to proceed with this option, there is a target for us to be able to reach the 100 tonnes per year as a council. How would we be reaching that goal if we were to stay with gas? Is there other ways we can reach that goal and reach that target for the CEO?
Through Madam Mayor, the challenge we've got, if it was electricity, you could choose an option of, for example, buying offset credits. But because it's gas, we will continue to produce those emissions. And I don't think there's any acceptable way you could offset those to zero to achieve our zero emissions. I think what we're looking at here is, because we've got a system that's end of life, we're taking an opportunity to put the best technology in place rather than replace with a technology that produces greenhouse gas emissions. We know where the globe is going in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. I firmly believe this is the right solution, but I also agree with Council that we need to make sure in the implementation of this solution that it's done to the satisfaction of our community.
Can I just add that perhaps, assuming this gets through and that there is a workshop, the question of solar heating is actually answered during that workshop, because I know some aspects of the answer, but it would be a really important thing for the rest of the elected members to understand that the issue of solar energy as opposed to what's proposed. So I just wanted to add that as something that could come up if we do go ahead and this gets through.
Oh, certainly, Madam Mayor.
Right.
I'm sure at any workshop...
So people understand
there'll
the issue in relation
we'll
to solar
revisit
energy.
the history of it.
I don't have anyone else wishing to speak on... Oh, yes, I do. Councillor Henke, you haven't spoken yet, so you can now speak.
Thank
unless
you.
You've got...
Yes, I do feel we need to also visit the financials for the now increased capital cost that's gone up to $2.5 million, to ensure that the benefit cost ratio is more than 1, greater than 1, not negative. It's, you know, we've generally talked about, oh yes, we're going to make carbon savings, etc., but we just need to have it laid out in a financial analysis or economic analysis for us. It's been a year since we had some last details on that. I do hope that the energy industry could come on board with us, our procurement strategy, which does consider the renewable energy targets that these companies have to achieve through the Essential Services Commission. Whether that's something can be negotiated, I don't know. And really, can we save, like Councillor Jones alluded, that maybe we don't have to have the pool at 20 degrees, it can be at 19 degrees, and cooler for, warmer for shorter periods of time. So a workshop would be good, but I do hope that this motion doesn't mean the train's just going to start running and the workshop's going to be just point of information type workshop. So in the spirit of developing a project together, I do hope this motion does have that intent. Thank you.
I might just add that, because it's not part of the debate, the loss of heating at that pool would lose masses of customers. It would also have a massive impact on all the swimming lessons and the swimming training and the children's swimming lessons, school programs that are happening right now would be highly impacted, and those people would go to another pool. And as Payneham is about to build their $30 million pool, and Unley is close by, we have to also consider the patronage of the pool in the future. And that is something that we really all have to consider when we're making whatever decision we are making about the future of this pool. So I just wanted to make that point for everyone to understand. A lot of older people go there swimming early in the morning, like at 6 a.m, including our governor. And they're not going to go there if it's anything less than 27 degrees, which is what is the standard across the state for outdoor pools. Indoor pools can go up to 30 degrees and they're not healthy at all. Anyway, Councillor Zing.
Thanks, Mayor. Just to clarify, with this motion that Councillor Cornish has put forward, that Council will have a workshop and then we'll transition to electricity at the same time. But if we have another idea, hypothetically, that's better at the workshop, that we come together, does that mean we won't transition to electricity again?
Who knows? It's up for discussion.
Through Madam Mayor, the way the resolution is worded, it is saying that council is committing to go to heat pump technology, which, I guess we've been advised is the optimum technology to use. What we are going to be talking about is the building design, the landscaping and the community consultation elements and how we can optimise those components.
Right, I have no one here who wishes to speak. If that's the case, I will go back to Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Worship. I really do hope you support this motion. This project, as we have heard, has been in the pipeline for quite some time. It was sent out through the public consultation through last year's budget. We've understood that the price has gone up, so we did go out with the full price last time. We do understand that the price has now gone up. Also, we found out today through email that we've been able to get some Commonwealth funding of a little under $600,000 towards this project, which almost negates the additional costs, of this project. We've got the requirements that we do need to change the heat exchanger, which was installed in 1998, so quite some time ago. It is really at its end of its life. We know that it will remove 350 tonnes of carbon from our footprint, the City of Burnside's footprint. It is our largest carbon producer, single carbon producer, and if we want to be serious about being carbon neutral, we do need to do something in this area. We've been told it's the most efficient by doing the heat pumps, the electric heat pump technology for the water heating, and then we can get the electricity through other environmental means such as solar. So I do hope you do this. I've added the third one in there because it was that one spot that we needed to better understand the intricacies of the project, and we need to find those little bits where the community can go, well, we actually don't like the vinyl louvers, let's make it black, or let's make it cream. The aesthetics of it, they'll get their opinions, and we'll get their opinions, and we'll feed that into the project where we can. So those aspects we need to cover off. So I've included those in this motion. So I really do hope you support the motion. It is definitely needed for the city of Burnside, and I agree with the Mayor, we can't have a pool that's not heated. It really would not work for our residents at all. So I do hope you support the motion. Thank you.
All those in favour? Against? Carried. Division has been called. All those who supported the motion, please stand. Councillor Hubel, Wilkins, Davey, Zing, Cornish, Harvey, Hallett, Turnbull and Dawes. And those against? Councillor Jones and Councillor Henschke. Thank you. Long one, but now we move to Councillor Henschke, Tusmore Park Fitness Equipment, page 34, item 11.3.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move with the officer's recommendation that Council postpones consideration of installing any additional outdoor fitness equipment at Tusmore Park until the Rec and Sport City Master Plan layer is completed. There was a good reach in the consultation with the community. There were 24 responses, 54% of the residents that supported the idea of having equipment. The idea came from the community, through the Lions community. And with the intensity of recent construction and development in the park, there was some negative responses about more things being added to the park. So there was some sensitivity there, and also awareness of the type of equipment. That information may have helped people in this consultation. For example, the type of equipment will probably be more like the Thorndon Park equipment, which is helpful for older residents to use, rather than, there's all different types of exercise equipment. So all in all, the way we're doing things around here these days is doing things through master plans and strategies, and this is just another change. We're doing things differently, and we're making decisions with layers, and any further requests for bits of equipment or this or that really have to line up with layers for open space, layers for sport equipment, etc. So this budget bid has been, yes, it's unbelievable. I'm sorry, I could hear that in the chamber. But that's the way things are happening these days. We have these master plans, and this is what we have to do, is now wait for this master plan layer to be developed, and then a strategic decision about where equipment will be placed. So I have to say sorry to those who were really keen for this equipment, and I understand they'll all be there'll be communication going back to those people who very kindly put their comments together to advise them that they do have another opportunity in the future once the layer is sorted out. So thank you all.
I think the key word in here is postpone, and Mr. Jordan, I have to ask you to refrain from interjecting, particularly when Councillor is speaking. Oh, sorry. Councillor Corney.
Happy to second the motion, and I'll reserve my right. Thank you.
Councillor Dawes.
Yes. What I want to say here is that what I hope that we don't do in the future, that when there's a strong opposition even though they might be in the minority, then we postpone. I'm happy to postpone on this occasion because there's a master plan coming. But as Councillor Hensky said, 54% were in favour, and those against were very strongly opposed. And that doesn't mean they get 2 votes instead of 1. You know, as I said in a council meeting last year, the only time I didn't go with a resident survey had so few returns, I think about 11, it was 5 to 6 or something, that was with the toilet block at Brock Reserve. But we made a decision as a council that we thought it was necessary. It's the only time I've actually voted against residents, but it was a very, very small sample. So I'm very interested in Councillor Davies' motion on notice later tonight, because that's about community engagement. And if, say, something is approved 51%, do we say we must go for it, or must it be at least 60% or whatever? Because I think this does raise issues in the future for us. So that's just a comment I made, but I'm happy to support the motion.
Councillor Dave.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Dawes, and I certainly support this motion. I actually think the community engagement process was flawed. I think if you look at page 42, the capture for the actual engagement process was really only one small area of 36 residents. It doesn't look like anyone was actively consulted on Stirling Street, on Northumberland Street, Rivington Grove, which was where there was going to be one of the spots selected for the location of the gym equipment. So I think I'm satisfied that we have got a good representation of people to defer this and to consider it later. But I think, as I will argue later, I think we can do our community engagement a lot better and a lot more precisely and proactively. So hopefully you'll support this. I think including additional equipment in our parks is becoming fraught. It's really interesting to see some of the comments about just over building in the park, over engineering the park. It's just too much stuff in it. Thank you.
Councillor Will.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, definitely. When you only get 26 responses, and I agree with the majority of comments that keep the park as it is, a nature play space. My grandchildren have spent many hours in the Tusmore wading pool. We've played tennis for school and coaching in the tennis courts. They like seeing the water running down the creek in a storm. It is nature play, and leave it at such. We do not need to cram up every single park in our neighbourhoods with gym equipment. Go to Vic Park, go to other major parks if that's the desire and that's your need. But keep it a simple nature play space. It is a beautiful park for picnics, playgrounds, wading pool and tennis court. I just am yes, I won't say any more.
Councillor Zing.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of questions. One is, could admin just remind me when the Sport Master Plan is coming out again?
Through to Mayor. Mr. Cannon.
Through the Mayor, it will be subject to council approval through the budget process to commence the open space layer, which also has an element of recreation and sport. So pending the budget approval, it will commence next year and be finished within the next 2 years.
Thank you. And then the other question was just the only place in City of Burnside we have this equipment is in Kensington Gardens, is that correct?
No. Miller Reserve.
Hang on. We'll just get the clarification through the CEO, thank you, rather than a discussion around the table.
We might not have the exhaustive list at our fingertips, but I'll get Mr. Cant just to perhaps mention a few.
Yeah, through your worship, we do have various fitness equipment throughout the city in different reserves. There's some down at the Glenunga Hub, and I believe there's one at Glenside as well.
And Penfold Park has got some new equipment in there as well. Of course, there's KGR. I'd just point out also, when this consultation took place, it was before the reopening of the wading pool. And the reopening of the wading pool has created some additional issues in relation to usage of the park that need to be considered, and that's why that word postpone, I'm not allowed to influence you, is a cleverly used word. That it's not saying no, but it's saying let's give it some more time. Okay, Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Your Worship. A lot of opinions and perspectives here. I think we're drifting a little bit away from the motion on the table, which is the concept of postponing. We've gone to a point where we're discussing whether we want this or not. This is a motion saying, hey, let's talk about it later. So I think we should get on with things, with all respect and love to everybody. But
Councillor Hallett.
Well, with all respect, thank you, Your Worship. With all respect, I actually would like to say that I just think our parks are getting just chock-a-block full. They're not parks and reserves anymore. They're sport and recreation facilities. We need less of them. If they're going to be, the one in Kensington Garden Reserve has very little usage. The main people that use it are the fitness group, the commercial fitness group. And if you've ever felt the floor of that, talk about a heat sink. My dog collapsed after sitting on it in a hot day, and I felt really awful that I hadn't realised that the floor was so hot that it would actually, give her like a heat stroke situation. And the usage is down. There's not that much usage of it. There's better ways of spacing it out, like they do at Victoria Park. I know it's much bigger and they can space them around, but grouping them into that big, solid, in-your-face equipment sort of setup, to me, it's just not conducive with that. That's what parks and reserves should be.
Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. I will support this motion. After seeing the installation of 2 gyms in Kensington Gardens Reserve and walking past these gyms, as Councillor Hallett has said, twice a day, they are a white elephant and very ugly and obviously installed for the minority. They are hardly used at all and an absolute eyesore amongst the beautiful reserve. As Councillor Wilkins said, not every park or reserve can be for everybody. We cannot cram more and more into our beautiful parks, particularly this one which is heritage listed, and we do not need these structures in our parks. Thank you.
Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm on the same wavelength of Councillor Hallett, Wilkins and Harvey. We visited Tusmore Park last Sunday with standing room only. Really, you couldn't even sit down. It was, the car parks were full, arterial roads were full, everybody was there. And we looked at the sites that were recommended for these fitness equipment things. They are the only bits of green left, honestly. And I agree with Councillor Harvey on Kensington Gardens Reserve. You see kids playing, they swing on them, but adults don't do anything with them. They were ugly, as you say, and they had that awful yellow stuff underneath. I think they're a phase that we're going through. Yeah. Somebody's promoting them, somebody's manufacturing them. Let's flog them off to the councils to make them feel good. We're doing things for adults. So I agree with this, postpone it, actually let's get rid of it. So thank you.
I don't have anyone else on the list. Yes, I do. Councillor Jones.
Look, I concur with Councillor Turnbull. This is the modern-day monorail for councils. Frankly, I think we should vote this down and just say let's hear no more of it. I guess we could postpone it, but I just don't see that we're ever going to do it, are we? So So yeah, I've convinced myself. I'm going to vote it down. I'm going to vote against it, and if we all vote against it, I think we should have a new motion to shelve the idea forever.
Right, if there's no one else on my screen, so I'm going to go back to Councillor Henschke.
Thank you all. Wow. Well, this passionate discussion does make me think we do have to think about the details in our sport, rec, stuff. Playgrounds. Do we want the plastic playground equipment? Yes, no. Do we want timber ones? Yes, no. Do we want the gym outdoor equipment that we've seen around? No. Do we want the permapine, good old-fashioned permapine sort of ones in Victoria Park along that walkway that, are sustainable, etc., that were built probably in the 1970s or 80s? And I've seen some people exercising with these things, posts and poles and minimal equipment. So there is a lot of options under equipment. So that's a really important point we need to work through in an information session workshop. So we get down to the specifics about equipment, whether it's playgrounds or exercise equipment. But I'm representing the residents in the ward of Rose Park Toorak Gardens, and that was elected members' bid I have made on their behalf of a very passionate group of older residents there who asked me to put up an elected members' bid. Now, the delivery of that bid, I think we've got to work on the details of it. So I welcome this recommendation from the administration to postpone it, because through the consultation we've become aware, and we all thought about this tonight, that we don't think the plastic stuff works in our beautiful green parks. So let's go get together down the track and work it all out and then come back. Thank you.
I will put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? The motion is carried. We'll move on to Councillor Davey, submission to parliamentary inquiry into the urban forest.
Thank you, Mayor. Something totally different, hopefully we all will agree with. I move in accordance with the recommendation that Council endorses the submission contained in attachment A to this report for the purpose of forwarding it to the parliamentary inquiry into the urban forest by its due date 24th of February 2023. I'd like to firstly thank the staff for all of the hard work. It's a great report, and I thank them for all their research and for pulling it together, and for giving us an opportunity to have our input. This is a really important inquiry. We really hope our feedback will be taken on board and that it will result in changes. It details all the concerns that we have in Burnside, from tree pruning, thinking about urban infill, appropriate trees in appropriate spaces, increased tree planting in high heat environments, reviewing and expanding the list of significant trees, the pros and cons of an urban tree canopy offset scheme, which we don't support, and a whole lot of other additional information. So I won't belabour the point. I think the report speaks for itself, and I'm very happy to move that we endorse it and send it off to the inquiry. Thank you.
Thank you. I seek a seconder. Councillor Henschke, do you wish to speak?
Yep. Just wanted to add that I spoke to the administration, or emailed them, about perhaps adding a bit about the urban forest and protecting the urban forest from, extra driveways mean we have to knock down a tree or two on the street, and so raising awareness about that point in this submission they said it's all doable. So just to also, because the urban forest is a huge part of our landscape, and it's always under threat whenever we have to split a block in half to enable development. It means like removing a 20-year-old oak tree, for example, which had to happen in my ward, and then work out where to put the replacement tree, and then that changes the pattern of the planting down the street. You imagine a line of oaks, but because of the development, the oak had to be put in a different spot, so the pattern of the oaks is changed for evermore. You know, we're accepting that now. So it's all based on merit now. There is merit in removing an oak tree because it would enable development to happen. Is that right, really? So I do thank the administration for the thorough report, and happy that that the urban forest will also be very much prominent in protection.
Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Worship. Yes, I just wanted to thank the administration for the work putting this submission together. It is extraordinarily comprehensive, and I feel that it's a badge for this city, one of the cities of the world with the forests. Now, tree city of the world, that's exactly, I was trying, thank you. Yes, we're a tree city of the world, and this submission absolutely and utterly you know, supports the fact that we do love our trees here. So I hope you do support the motion and we get this sent off into the Parliament.
Those who don't know, we were awarded UNESCO Tree City of the World 2 years in a row during the last 4 years. We are one of only 3 in Australia, I believe. Well, we haven't. Absolutely. Okay, next. I don't have anyone else wishes to speak, so I'd like to move back to Councillor Davey. Nothing to add? Just thank you again to the staff before I put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Next one is the supplementary election. Now, there are a number of options here, but Councillor Wilkins, I'll just explain those before you launch in. Just for some history, last year when this ballot happened, the council of the time decided not to recommend or not to vote for anyone at all. That is an option. The second option is to vote for one of these 2 people to represent us on Garrock. The reason that, just to clarify, the reason for this is because one of the people who was elected to Garrock, even though we didn't vote, was a mayor of another council who did not win her position back as mayor. Hence, it left a vacancy. And so we have 2 people, both of whom who have submitted their formal applications, and some of you have also, all of you have also received an additional letter from a staff member of Mayor Wisdom, giving you additional information. But the 2 representatives who are nominated for Garrock have included their formal applications here in this, and you can see both of them are highly experienced councillors. The current there are 2 people who represent the eastern region on Garrock. One of them is Anna Lumbrero from Campbelltown, Liam Bruno, I knew I'd get that pronunciation wrong, who is on Campbelltown Council, and she is continues because she was re-elected. So we have to fill one more place, and we either vote or not vote, and we have to vote for one. If we decide to vote, we have to vote for one. So sorry about that kind of introduction, but I thought it was necessary to let everyone know and understand before we moved on.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. I read this and I thought, well, we have to vote for one of 2 people. So I move the council recommendation that we undertake a secret ballot process if required, as identified in attachment D of this report, to determine one candidate it wishes to elect for the Greater Adelaide Regional Organisation of Councils, Regional Grouping Metro East 22 to 24. Point 2 is you elect through the secret ballot a person. Notes that in accordance with clause 4.45 of the GARAC Terms of Reference, the Mayor will mark the ballot paper with an X next to the one candidate that the Council wishes elected. Seal the ballot paper in the envelope marked ballot paper and then place this envelope inside the envelope marked Returning Officer, noting that the second envelope marked Returning Officer indicates the Council's name on the inside flap of the envelope. Is that quite clear?
Here's a piece of paper that I put a mark on. If you decide that you're going to have...
Are we going to have a secret ballot? Do we have little pieces of paper or...?
Well, you're moving the motion as it stands. You're moving the motion as it stands.
The secret ballot process.
All right, so then we need a seconder for this.
Secret ballot process.
Okay. Then we need a seconder for this motion as it stands. We need to go through this process, and then if you choose to do something else, you'll vote this one down. Okay, so I have Councillor Cornish seconding the motion.
Happy to second the motion, and let's do a secret ballot.
All right, so... You will make your own decision as to who you support. And then whoever you support in the majority, that name is submitted to GAROC. Then there's another process, of course, because all the councils in the east, that is Unley, Campbelltown, Prospect, Walkerville, Nord, Payneham, St Peters, and I think I said Campbelltown, all have to, those votes are all put together to find out who the winner is. And if there's a tie, which was what happened last year, a name is pulled out of a hat.
Right.
And the person whose name is pulled out of a hat goes on GAROC.
Madam Mayor, can I just point out page 93, thank you, and 95, 6, the CVs or the nomination forms for those people, those two candidates, who are Mayor Jan Claire Wisdom or Councillor Don Palmer from Unley. So please mark one person's name in your piece of paper. Wisdom. Fold your ballot paper in half and give it to the returning officer, please.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll just read through the votes now. Actually, I won't call them out all at once. I'll just do the count silently and tell you the result, if that's okay. Okay, I've had a request to go live. So, Jean Claire. Don Palmer. Jean Claire.
This is Jan.
Oh, sorry.
It's Jan Claire.
Sorry, Jan Claire. Sorry, my accent was all wrong.
That's all right.
Jan Claire. Why did I think it was French?
No,
not sure.
It's not French, it's just Jan Claire.
Yeah. Don Palmer. Jane Clare. Don Palmer. Jane Clare. Reopen nominations.
That's a no vote.
So that's, yeah, someone's nullified their vote.
Informal.
Informal, yes. And Don Palmer.
5 to 6.
So Mayor Jane Clare has 6 votes and Councillor Don Palmer has 5 votes. Therefore, the name to be placed in the motion is Mayor Jane Clare Wisdom. But
And I have marked the X on Jane Clare Wisdom, pulled off the ballot paper. I don't have to sign it. You can see me sealing it, and it goes in there. We can move on. We don't need, oh no, we need a motion. We have to put the vote. We've now got the name in there, Jane Clare Wisdom. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Next one is council member appointment, and I think the mover of the person who withdrew that was Councillor Dawes.
Yeah, so on page 102, we undertake a secret ballot process as before, if required, to determine the appointment of one council member to the Era Water Audit Committee. And then we're going to appoint that council law as a member for a 2-year period, effective from the unanimous approval of the constituent councils. So based on that basis, I'd like to nominate Councillor Jones, if I could.
Do you accept that nomination, Councillor Jones? Are there any further nominations? Councillor Cornish?
I'll throw Councillor Zing into the mix if he's interested. I haven't forewarned him.
Good idea to ask them first.
I'll leave it to Councillor Jones.
Didn't understand what you said. You're leaving it to Councillor Jones, okay. I just didn't quite catch it, sorry about that. All right, so we have one nomination and there are no further nominations, so therefore, Councillor...
So I'll put Jones
wait a
in
minute,
number 2.
we need to put Councillor Jones in the space and you can carry on
and then,
with Councillor Dawes.
as I've said before, so I move that way.
All right, now I need a seconder. Councillor Henschke got her name, finger on the buzzer first, so you're seconding it, Councillor Henschke. Councillor Hube, do you wish to speak?
No.
You,
I just
you
want
need to just...
Yes, okay, yes, I second this, and I know Councillor Jones will be excellent in this role. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Hubel, you wish to speak?
I was just going to second.
You're going to second, so you've got him first, okay. All right, so I'll put the motion, unless, of course, Councillor Dawes, you wish to say anything further. No? Okay. Right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Now we move to the questions on notice, which you received the results of, the answers to today. We have a motion on notice and then one more motion, that is the late one you received at 14.1 that you received today. So we'll deal with the motion on notice, page 116, and I think that was Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. Do we have the motion up? Shall I read it out while we're finding it? I'm moving that Council, as a matter of priority, reviews and updates the City of Burnside Community Engagement Public Consultation Policy of 14th of April 2020. 2, that the policy review includes the commitment of City of Burnside to transparency of decision making, along with informing and involving the community in key decisions affecting a local area and also more widely. The commitment to open, transparent, responsive and accountable government. The mechanisms for genuine consultation and engagement with council members on any proposed changes to policy, operational activities, plus services and activities in their ward. The methods to be used to encourage and seek contributions from ratepayers who may be impacted by decisions of council, and naming the policy the Community Engagement and Consultation Policy. 3, that a draft new policy be circulated to council members before circulation to the community in accordance with Section 50 of the Local Government Act and for final consideration by council. And then 4, that in the interim, while this review proceeds, because it does take some time, council members are consulted and involved with and involved in any changes to the services, operations, equipment and conditions proposed in their ward. I've actually been quite generous in dating this policy. It's actually was last published on the 13th of March 2018, and the 14th of April 2020 edition was that was the time of COVID provisions, and we had a whole lot of ministerial requirements that we needed to include in our community engagement policy. But we haven't actually had a wholesale review of the policy for over 5 years. I think it's quite dated now. We have significant commitments in terms of public consultation under the Local Government Act, under Section 3, Section 80 and Section 50. And I understand that there is a review of these requirements underway with some updated provisions due next year. But I don't really think we can hold off from then. I think in the interim we do need to improve our policy because our community is very involved in what we do. We all know that. We all know if we don't consult or focus enough, there can be backlashes and heated debates and discussions. So I think we could refine our community consultation practices for the whole range of needs we have. So from a proposal for new gym equipment that we've just seen, where I don't think we got enough respondents and we didn't do wide enough consultation for the park, to one of the other big examples we've had recently, which is the pump track location, where many members of my community were quite upset about the lack of consultation with them. So we've got a whole lot of issues that it's got to cover. It's got to be covering projects, issues of differing sizes, strategic importance, environmental implications, as well, of course, of the budgets and those sort of things. So it's critical that we inform, consult and involve our community in a timely way. And so I would ask that you support this, that we update our policy. The staff, using their acumen and knowledge, could develop a new policy. There are some very good ones in surrounding councils. I think the City of Unley's got quite a good community consultation policy. I think Norwood's got quite a good one. And I think my particular keenness is that we actually call it community engagement and public consultation, not public consultation in brackets, sort of as an afterthought. I think they're an intrinsic part together. And I think that it's a multifaceted process of development, consideration by us, consideration of a final draft by council, and then it does go out for public consultation. So it's quite a big process. Hopefully you'll support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cornish, you wish to second it?
Yeah, I'm happy to second it and I'll reserve my right. Thank you.
Councillor Jones?
Yes, look, I'm happy to support this. Can I just point out that what Councillor Davies said in her proposal speech, She's said it's going to be called the Community Engagement and Public Consultation Policy, which is not actually what the motion says. So she might want to change that. But anyway, while she thinks about that, I'll speak. Look, I'm happy to support this. Point 1, review the policy. Well, the staff are already doing that, so that's tick. Happy to support that. 2, A to D all seem pretty worthy aims, so I'm happy to support those. E, as I've mentioned, I don't think that's actually what Councillor Davey intended. I mean, arguably, it's jumping the gun to be naming the policy before we've seen it, but I can probably live with that. 3 seems to be standard practice, so I think tick, don't have a problem with that. And 4, that seems to happen as well, so I'm happy to support that. So all in all, I think I'm happy with this motion and I'll be voting for it.
Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I'm very happy to support Councillor Davey on this matter because coming back into council, the first place I found out about things was the Focus magazine last year, dated summer 22, and up to upcoming works. There were footpath works in Birkin Street Eastwood, John Street Eastwood, Main Street Eastwood. Then there was road resurfacing in Bath Street and Matilda Lane Eastwood. Who the hell knew? Nobody. I certainly didn't. And there might have been a flyer that went to the people, and I live on the northern side of Elizabeth Street. I back onto Matilda Dixon Lane. That was the only thing I knew about. Everybody in the street was a bit blindsided about these works that were going to happen. And just this week, Main Street Eastwood, the footpaths work started. You come back from the walk at 6:30 or 7 in the morning, and there's the footpath in Main Street Reserve is being gouged up, and you then ask the workmen, what is happening? What are you doing? What is proposed to be done? We're paving. So that's fine. But there was no consultation about the type of pavers. Round the Main Street East Reserve trees, the perimeter on the street, we should have had permeable pavers so the water could actually transfer through to the root zone of the trees. It hasn't happened. Too late. There was no discussion. And it was talking, when I first found out about it, talking to the guys in the street, the very next day the pavers that were ordered last year were delivered. So the best outcome has not been done. The work has been excellent, but my point is the residents, I'm the first person the residents ask, what's happening, Di? And if I don't know, you feel a complete prick, quite frankly. And they understand when I say, well, I have no idea. I know about the Matilda Dixon Lane. We don't want extra asphalt. We don't want cars to speed up in the streets. We don't want cars to speed up in the rear lanes. So it is important that we are consulted with as the residents' representative for the ward in the city of Burnside. So I want to be involved in the planning and notification so that we can pass on that information and explain to the residents what is happening in their street. Thank you.
Councillor Dawes.
Yeah, a question for administration, first of all. I just want to find out from them how they interpret this particular motion. Under 2C, it refers to operational activities, and in number 4, it just uses the word operations. It may have to be, Barry Martin, yourself, Chris, that just kind of, what do you understand to mean by those words?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I guess the way I'm interpreting this motion as a whole is that the staff will put together a draft, and that will be presented to council for their consideration. And I guess that's where we'll find out whether we're in agreement on what operational means. There needs to be an understanding that there are certain day-to-day operational things that we do that I will not be consulting on everything, because once we have agreed a way of doing business with the council, it's appropriate that we just go and do. But it's about determining, and I'll take Councillor Wilkins' point, whilst I would hope your community cut you a little bit of slack knowing that you're newly elected, I think that's important to note that some of the projects were locked in before your time, in fairness to yourself. But the point that I'm getting across loud and clear is that works of a project nature or not standard operating procedure, for example, like, you know, mowing the verges, for example, once we've agreed on the service standard, that the ward councillors, and it's rightly so, have that information at their fingertips. So, and that's, I totally understand that and respect that. So I do have to my mind a definition of what operational means, and I think the best time to flesh that out is when we're exploring the draft document together when we go forward.
Which leads me to my second question. So that, I think you said a matter of detail, and we're not talking about day-to-day activities. So will you share that with council, or will that appear in the policy? Because I think around the room we'd all have a different interpretation of what operational activities means.
Yep. Certainly, sorry if I wasn't clear before. The goal here is that the policy document will leave council under no illusions about what activities they are agreeing that they wish to be consulted on.
Councillor
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to support Councillor Davies' motion. I agree with her that the policy needs updating, which is why it's currently under review. I'd like to congratulate the admin and relevant staff and council on continuously and successfully striving to improve its community engagement performance as reflected in the satisfaction levels within the annual survey. I have a background, my own working background was that I actually designed and managed engagement strategies for some of the major projects in South Australia, which included the EIS for the Olympic Dam expansion, the Adelaide Desal project, the Adelaide Airport Runway project, Lower Lakes EIS, the South Road Superway project, and the North-South Pipeline project. And I also did a number of mining projects, both in York Peninsula and in Western Australia. So the things that I would like to see us doing differently is I'd like to see a framework diagram. The framework diagram in our policy needs to include our decision-making process. Other councils actually include the decision-making process, and I think that that's really important for the community to understand that if they tell you something during the consultation process, that doesn't mean it's going to happen. It comes into a decision-making process which includes social, environmental and economic and engineering considerations. So I'd like to see that added. I think the main issue I have with Burnside's approach is the lack of early involvement with the community. We need to go out to the public. We tend to go out to the public after a decision has been made and run that through a feedback process, as opposed to best practice, which involves the community through the whole life of the project, and in particular the planning and design phase. And I'd like to see some objectives added to the policy and principles and aspirational goals. And that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
I have to say that while I appreciate your comments that most of our projects that have been ongoing master plans, etc., have involved extensive consultation right from the outset. So I think that's just your not having been on council long enough to actually understand the process as we go through. And if I'm wrong, please, those other elected members who've been on for council for me, like me for a long time, can certainly correct my interpretation. But I do appreciate the comments that you have made. But I just think that there's a little bit of
Well, that's
not
my
yet
obser-
experience an understanding at this point in time.
That's my observation as well as a resident before watching council.
No, fair comment, fair comment. Next one is Councillor Hubel.
I just had a question. Talking about sorts of works that go on throughout the city, is what's provided to us in the weekly the weekly update? Are there things that happen that aren't included in that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, it's interesting. The team and I have been exploring ways that we can provide the members with great levels of information and looking at the timeliness of it. With particular regard to that publication, I think your observation is it's providing a level of information. It's fairly low, and there might be a need for us to put some additional information to provide some of those key project facts, just so the councillors can have that at the fingertips. Yeah, so I think we can enhance that, is my response.
Councillor Henge.
Thank you. Yes, I'd like to comment about this field, and I'm no expert in it, but at all. But I just wanted to reflect that when I read this motion, community, I was thinking, oh, what about the small business community, the big business community? Okay, I'll Google, oh, yep, small business is included in the definition of community. And if you go deeper into this notion of community, if you're a social scientist, which I do hope we engage with a social scientist in the development of our policy, because they are experts, it does things like tell you that, a common definition of community, a group of people with diverse characteristics who are linked by social ties, share common perspectives and engage in joint action in geographical locations or settings. I thought, wow, there's a lot to this, and I'm really excited about drilling down on this field with my co-councillors who clearly have lots of experience and expertise in this, because I think this is very exciting to understand the diversity of our community even further, and fully understand their needs. And I, as a ward councillor, I naturally try and get a sense of the diverse community and ties people have between each other, and in particular the gym equipment that I was asked to bid for by a certain group of the community. They were culturally aligned to that. They were older residents who culturally were into that. They weren't gym junkies, so there was all these different perspectives. So it was very interesting. I do look forward to this new policy. Thank you all.
Councillor Hart.
Thank you, Mayor. I will definitely support this motion. There is, I believe, a lot of confusion from our residents regarding community consultation. As a resident myself, prior to being elected, I too fell into this category. I feel we need to make it simpler and easier to give our residents many options. Sometimes residents, I am told, find the questions misleading and confusing. Many residents also are not aware of when and where they can become involved, because they certainly do want to be involved. Can this please be simplified and made clearer for our residents to participate and understand and feel included? Thank you.
I don't have any other names on the list at this point in time, so can I go back to you, Councillor Davey? And Councillor, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you everyone for all your contributions and inputs, and hopefully your support. We as elected members do need to be closely involved in matters affecting our community. We need to know what's happening and we've had some examples of how we need to be appraised of them and informed of them beforehand, both in our particular wards, particularly in our particular wards, because we're the ones that people go to and say what's happening. what's going on. We need notification greater than the most welcome weekly updates, which has been mentioned, are very useful, of the operational activities going on, such as curbing, road resurfacing, etc. But when things happen like tree failures, tree removals are needed, tree pruning, playground upgrades, equipment failures, for example, we're the ones most often contacted by our community to say what's happening and, you know, what's going on. The other issue that's been raised is that we could simplify our community engagement. We could look at how we do it and the many levels that we need to do of consultation, and make that as simple and direct and clear for our community as possible. There are, as have been pointed out, business members of the community who have different requirements to residential members, and then we have all the other aspects that our community values so much. So while we are reviewing the policy, I think it's really timely and welcome that. I won't go into disputing what's been said. I just think we can't totally bank on our community survey, which I don't think we've had the results of yet. We had a survey done late last year. I look forward to the results of that. But I think we actually have a legislative responsibility and a statutory responsibility to have a really streamlined and effective community consultation and engagement policy. So hopefully you'll support this, and we can look forward to being involved in that as it comes to us. Thank you.
I put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. I'm going to propose that we do deal with the last item on the agenda, because hopefully it will not take long. We're only receiving a report, rather than having a break now and then we can finish the meeting and go home, as opposed to breaking for 10 minutes and then having to come back for one item. So unless there's any opposition to that, Councillor Cornish, you happy?
I am. I'm happy to move the
and you want to move the officer's recommendation
for
Thank
for
you.
this. Thank you.
Got you. And Councillor...
It's regrettable that we have to, but I will, yes.
Thank you. Everyone should have received this late submission today. You got it as an email during the afternoon, and it relates specifically to what happened in relation to the election process. So would you like to comment on that?
Yeah. Madam
for
Mayor,
those who don't know.
Madam Mayor, considering this is a late item, and it's something I am at pains not to present to Council. Having said that, the Act has mandated that I need to inform Council that Councillor Jennings is no longer an elected member. It's an unfortunate consequence of the fact that, and to use the words of the legislation, the lawyer's words in terms of the legislation, it's a guillotine order, so that the Act is written very prescriptively that should you not complete that second election donation return on time, you automatically cease to become elected member. And then there's a couple of steps that we need to do from a governance perspective. One of those is inform you this evening via report, and the second is to provide notification to the Government Gazette, and the team's taking care of that. So I'm happy to take any questions on this one, but this really is a formality as required by the Act. Councillor Dawes, you're seconding?
Yes, I was seconded, but can I now ask a question?
Certainly.
I've just informed Councillor Turnbull on paragraph 24 that she's now back on the East West Board, and she's also on EHA. So how long do we think this will take, you know, because I see the first 10 went before the tribunal today. I don't know if that included Councillor or former Councillor Jennings, but I'll let Councillor Turnbull speak for herself, but I'm just thinking of our own situation here, where we've got councillors who have nominated and have been accepted on other boards and may not wish to take up all those positions.
Yes, certainly. Through Madam Mayor, to talk to the timeframes in the first instance, as it turns out, I had the opportunity to meet with the Minister today as part of a larger briefing of CEOs. I'm pleased to note that Minister Brock and I are on good speaking terms. It's probably testament to the length of our relationship that we managed to sandwich that one. So all is well there. And I also had his chief of staff there, so that was good as well. But back to the matter at hand. We did specifically talk about this matter. There's a few cases being heard by SACAT today. It's a preliminary hearing, so it's not actually the hearing. The time frame is unknown at this stage. We just don't know how long they take. I do know they have certainly made provision to address them as a matter of urgency, but I can't give you the time frame. Now, as to elected members that were sitting in a support role, should Councillor Jennings, when he was here, not be able to attend meetings, obviously if the members are able to step in, that's great. If you aren't, just let me know and I'll make alternate arrangements.
Depends on their pieces.
Okay, I'll let them know. Thank you. I think that answers all your questions.
Councillor Zing.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I just confirm with the CEO that Ted will go to SACAC now? If he loses the appeal, does that mean we definitely go to countback, or will there be a by-election?
I'm sorry, I'm delaying that answer because during this process there's been lots of contradictory terminology used by the Minister. And I'll just share some of them. For example, one of his first grabs was that all the CEOs had been advised. And in fact, we hadn't. And in fact, I had to ring EXA the next day, and then they informed me that perhaps they had asked the Minister to not share it so early. But the other thing the Minister said, he said there would be lots of supplementary elections. Now, my understanding is that it will potentially go to a countback. But having said that, I know the government is looking behind the scenes, and so don't quote me on that, but my current understanding is that it will be a countback. We shouldn't have to go to a supplementary election. My reading of the Act is that those 4 councils whose mayors have been impacted will be required to go to a supplementary election. So that should not impact us, hopefully.
Can you tell us which councils they are?
The mayors.
Where the mayors are?
The one I know for certain is Prospect.
Tumby Bay.
I know the mayor of Whyalla has been impacted.
Tumby Bay.
Tumby Bay, and I don't know the last one. I'm sorry. There may have only been 3. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So therefore, Rachel Sanson may not go into...
That's different from the legislation.
I'm sorry.
Isn't that different from what the legislation says?
Karishma won't correct me if I'm wrong, but the Act has been changed since prior years.
Yes.
So the new Act provides the countback provisions, but it excludes the mayor. Is that correct, Karishma? Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
So it will be a supplementary election.
For the mayors. Yeah.
All right, next one is Councillor Jones.
This is just a query on the countback. My understanding is you go and redo the counts. You don't just appoint whoever came third. Is that correct?
My understanding is that EXA, yes, sorry, they don't automatically just grab their old results. I do believe they interrogate the count, but it's EXA's process, not ours.
So throughout this process...
Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is to the CEO on what's the process in the AAT? What's actually happening? Are they having hearings? Are they having hearings with all of the affected elected members present?
Yep.
It's really obscure to me as to how it's all going to work.
Yeah. So,
it seems to be a bit secret.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's secret, but I think everyone's scrambling because this hasn't happened before. My understanding is that it's a 2-stage process. During your application to SACAT, you obviously need to lodge your reasons why you feel that you should be reinstated, and that, you know, you had a very good reason not to fill out your form. There is what's called the preliminary hearing, and I'm not exactly sure what they're doing at the preliminary hearing, and then there's a formal hearing. But they will be undertaken individually, because everyone's case will have individual circumstance. Yeah, it won't be a group consideration.
So that'll be over the next month?
The timeframes are unknown. There's been a commitment by SACAT and the government, well, particularly by SACAT, that they would expedite the process because they understand what's at stake here. But having said that, no one still doesn't know what that means. I think it's heartening because the SACAT workload means that some matters are delayed for months. So one can hope that they're going to dedicate some resource to process these in an expeditious fashion.
And Councillor Zing?
So to confirm, there's no financial implications for City of Burnside, is there? We won't be spending money on anything at all?
At this stage, based on the information I have, there should be no negative financial impact for City of Burnside.
Right, since there are no further
I had one
questions.
further question.
Oh, right, Councillor.
I just have one. Did anyone acknowledge, and I guess particularly EXA, acknowledge that their portal was a shambles? How absolutely difficult it was for all of us to access it right throughout the whole election campaign?
Yeah, in my discussions with the Minister, he's acutely aware of that commentary. EXA have, and in fact he shared this afternoon that EXA have committed to a full review of their process. You know, there was actually some commentary reflecting on when the responsibility for this sat with the CEOs of local government, and as CEOs, you know, we used to go around and say, "Excuse me, come on, you know, can I give you a hand?" So we took a very personal approach with it, and there was a bit of a commentary saying, well, they may have had some formal processes in place, but maybe they need to amend their processes to perhaps include, heaven forbid, a phone call. But I can't speak for EXIT, but I know they are actively going to review the situation.
Councillor Henschke?
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question, please. Through the process, we have a staff member who has a role with the Electoral Commission of South Australia through the ballot process. Now, would that role also be under review, the scope of that role, to include, as you say, assistance or support to fill out forms?
Short answer is no. There's a very clear distinction here between the election process and then the responsibilities of SCOSA in the fulfilment of the parts of the legislation, like filling out your returns. So the election process, so no staff member employed by the City of Burnside would be involved at all with fulfilment of those extra parts of the legislation, like assisting. It's really for EXA, because it was a deliberate decision to separate local government from the process. So EXA were given that role. Who knows where it's going to land, but at the current position, it solely sits with EXA and their employees, whatever approach they wish to take.
Right, now Councillor Councillor Cornish. Right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Just before I close the meeting, I just want to inform you that I will be unavailable all day Friday and Saturday, as I will be attending with 49 other mayors across the state a 2-day mayoral training session. Yippee. Councillor Cornish.
I just had a question without notice, if I can, in this part of the agenda. On the 3rd of December, while we had a huge car race, one of our city parks, the playground, was set on fire in Albert Street. I'm just wondering how that's, how we're going with the insurance claim and the replacement.
Yeah.
Not next to the kidney, it's, yeah, no.
Through Madam Mayor, Mr. Kent?
Through your worship, I don't believe we've had a response yet, but I will take that on notice and I'll provide full information to council members tomorrow.
Thank you. I declare the meeting closed at 9:14, and thank you for your attendance and patience. And now you are free to stay and have a drink if you choose, or go home.